All right, everyone. Well, we are going to get started, and if any more people jump on, they can do that. This is also being recorded. I will be sending out the link to you guys and to those who wanted to join but couldn't tonight to watch in the next couple of days. So you can be on the lookout for that in the email. Yeah, I am really excited to do this. Thank y'all for joining. I hope you're having a good week. This is actually our first webinar and very excited about that. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Obviously, given the current circumstances of our world right now, in-person gatherings are still not happening very often. And prior to COVID, uh, what you're going to hear tonight is usually what I would share at live events, at churches, when I go and speak directly to students at schools. But I'm excited to do this online because obviously the online world enables this information to go much further than I even could in person, or even, a lot of you, if we had this event in person, might have not even been able to attend. So this is great. We're going to continue doing these. I hope in the next, maybe once a month or every other month, but y'all can just be on the lookout for that to share it with your friends who maybe couldn't make it this time around. So most of you do know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Caitlin Crane. I am the founder and CEO of Just One. I started Just One about 7 years ago now. December will be 7 years, which is kind of wild to me. The years have flown. But Just One, our heart is to rescue and protect children from sex trafficking and exploitation. We work locally and internationally. Locally, what you're getting to experience tonight is our educational arm, and we just believe that prevention education is vital in the fight against trafficking and exploitation. We need this type of education to get out there so people are equipped to actually combat this. Obviously, tonight we're specifically talking about how to protect children, the children in your lives, if you have children or if you know children, or you know people with children and you can just share what you learned tonight. We do this, like I said, in schools, at other events, and when things are gathering, schools are gathering. We also work internationally, and some of you know that as well, and we have 21 beautiful girls in Kenya that live in our safe house, and these girls have been rescued from a wide variety of abuse, neglect, and these girls have come to live in our safe house and are in private school, and it's just amazing to see, despite their painful past, when they've been given a new opportunity and to live in a safe environment where they know they're loved, that they just come alive and they are flourishing, and we're so proud of them. My mom and I and the missionaries we're partnered with, we are all going to see the girls in October, and I'm so excited. We literally booked our plane tickets within days after Kenya opened its borders. So can't wait to be there and to share more of the videos and pictures of the girls when we come back. That's in a nutshell what we do at Just One. And as we dive in, I want to take just a minute here to share a little bit of my own story. Some of you, since you do know me personally, would already have heard this. But for those who don't and who will watch this later, I want to go ahead and share really where Just One started for me. And I was 14 years old at a fundraiser for a nonprofit in India. And I just remember they were sharing a story of a 14-year-old girl who had been trafficked, and it just hit me like a bolt of lightning, like the realization that I could have been her and that what happened to her could have happened to me. And God used that to plant a seed in my heart that just grew into this passion over the years. And fast forward, and I was 20, almost 21 years old when I was about to start Just One. And the crazy thing is at this time, I knew I had this passion to fight on behalf of the vulnerable, but I had no idea that I was also vulnerable. And so right around the time I was starting Just One, I met a guy, and he was a good bit older than me. On the surface, he seemed to be a decent guy, kind of. He claimed to be a Christian. He was a little rough around the edges, and long story short, he started pursuing me right away. He was telling me he loved me and he wanted to marry me within just a few weeks of meeting me. And I'm sure all of you parents out there are going like, nope, that's like a red flag. And obviously I know that now. I didn't realize that then, and nor was I listening to my parents like I should have. But over time, he really manipulated me and lied to me about some really big things. He lied about having stage 3 lung cancer and that he was dying just to try to get me to stay in the relationship. He had a girlfriend the whole time he lived with, the whole time he was pursuing me. And all of these things and all the other lies, I did not find out until about a year later. And at that point, once I found out the truth, it was too late. It was too late for me to protect myself. I had already let this guy into my life. I trusted him, and he took advantage of me. And it was just crazy because it took me a couple years, one, to heal from that experience, but also to see the situation with clear eyes and to realize that I had been exploited. And it was just crazy the day it dawned on me that if this guy had been a trafficker, I would have been trafficked, because he used a lot of the same tactics that we're going to talk about, some of them tonight, the traffickers use to groom their victims. And one of those is posing as an older boyfriend, and that's what this guy did. And so thank God he wasn't a trafficker. And I don't share my story to say what I went through is at all equivalent to those who have been trafficked or sexually abused, because it's not. But I was exploited and taken advantage of. And thank God, like the healing work that Jesus has done in my life, that even enables me to be able to share this story and not break down in like a puddle of tears, but share it from a place of strength, saying like, this has happened to me, and even worse than this, way worse than this, happens to over 10 million children around the world today. And knowing that truth, it completely infuriates me, like I'm sure it would all of you, but it also motivates me to fight on their behalf. And so that, out of that passion, is why I'm sharing tonight, from my own experience, but also from 7 years of being in this work in the anti-trafficking world. So I want to start there. Let's just dive right in. We're going to start with first defining what is child sex trafficking and what is child sexual abuse. These might be things that just seem like no-brainer. Y'all might already know, but I think it's good to just clarify the kind of these definitions just to make sure everyone knows specifically what they are. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me just a second, and y'all are going to see the presentation. All right, should be able to see that. And then I don't know if I'm able to. All right, okay, so that should work fine. All right, here we go. So what is child sex trafficking? It is a bigger word that is kind of the official word is commercial sexual exploitation of children, also known as CSEC. And it refers to a range of crimes and activities that involve the sexual abuse or exploitation of a child for the financial benefit of any person or in exchange for anything of value. That includes monetary and non-monetary benefits given or received by any person. This includes child pornography. The difference between child trafficking and trafficking that involves an adult is that with a child, there does not have to be any proof of manipulation, force, or threat for it to be considered commercial child sex trafficking. And it's just specifically if anything is exchanged of value. And I think it's just important to kind of make that definition, because you'll hear I don't know who would ever throw out this term, but I know it's out there, of like a child prostitute. There's no such thing as a child prostitute. Children are victims of, when there's sex trafficking involved, that child is a victim. They're not a prostitute and they are not choosing that life. Now, let's talk about child sexual abuse. And it is any sexual act between an adult and a minor, or between two minors when one exerts power over the other. And this includes non-contact acts, communicating in a sexual manner by phone or internet, and exposure to pornography. And I always want to include that in there because I don't think that people realize that a child being exposed to porn, oftentimes without them even wanting to see it, like maybe an older friend or an older cousin just shows them the pornography, that this is actually sexual abuse, and it is a traumatic experience for the child. The image that they see is imprinted on their brain and shapes their view of sexuality. It can be traumatizing, but even especially if it's hardcore porn, the trauma can be significant. Statistics are showing that it's becoming more and more common for children under the age of 10 to be exposed to porn. I know, as for those of you who are parents, that is a very scary statistic, but unfortunately in today's world, it's what is happening. We need to be aware of that. And studies show that when a child has been either sexually, physically, or verbally abused at some point, they are more vulnerable to being re-victimized and trafficked at a later point in their life. All right, so we're gonna talk about some of the facts. And hopefully, I think hopefully everyone's still hearing me and we're good. In the screen sharing mode, I can't see the chat actually. So Mom, if something goes wrong, just do send me a text and I will fix it. All right, so there is 100,000 estimated minors in the US sex industry. 14 is the average age of a girl first used in the sex trade. In Georgia, 90% of minors being trafficked are enrolled in our public schools. 90% of children who are commercially sexually exploited have been sexually abused in the past. And 1 in 10 children are sexually abused before their 18th birthday. Now, these are a lot of stats, but y'all just bear with me. I just want to make sure y'all really understand what's happening and the numbers behind what's happening. 35% of child victims, this is specifically of sexual abuse, are 11 years old or younger. And so as you see, this shows that very young children are being sexually abused. 90% of children who are victims of sexual abuse know their abuser. That statistic is very unsettling for me. I'm sure for you. We kind of, I think, just like to assume that if the sad reality of and trauma of sexual abuse happens, that it would be by someone that doesn't know the child. But it shows here that 90% of the children who are abused do know the person. And 60% of children who are sexually abused are abused by people the family actually trusts. So when you might think that your child is more at risk of being abused by some stranger or someone they don't know at school that just manages to, get the child alone, like actually no, it's more likely for someone that your family trusts to abuse the child. I don't want to say this to cause fear, but just to shine a light on what can happen and what does happen, unfortunately, in today's world. 40% of children who are sexually abused are abused by older or more powerful children. This could be family members that are older, siblings, older cousins, and so on. And then 10% of children who are sexually abused are abused by a stranger. So again, this just proves, you would think those numbers would be flip-flopped and be the 10% are abused by people they know and 90% are abused by strangers, but it's not. It's the other way around. And I just see that it's really important to address both sex trafficking and sexual abuse in the same conversation. One, because they are both dangers that pose a threat to our children today, and two, because one can lead to the other and they kind of feed into each other. So that is why we're talking about both today. Let's first dive into talking specifically, just to give you all a roadmap of like where we're going. I probably should have started with that, but we're gonna dive into like the tactics of the traffickers and then ways that you can help the children in your life stay safe online from trafficking, stay safe from that and in their day-to-day lives. And then we're also going to talk about ways that you can protect your children from sexual abuse as well. So first, let's talk about what the traffickers look for. See, traffickers are looking for a vulnerable and an easy target because they just want it to be easy. And some children are easier targets than others. And there are certain things that studies do show, consistent things that tend to make a child more vulnerable to becoming a target of a trafficker. Here are some of the common things. It's a child that has low self-esteem, a child that struggles with depression, self-harm, is unstable mentally, a child that is searching or desperate for love, a child who is lonely, and let's see, did that come up? Yep, lonely or isolated, and a child who struggles with a drug and or alcohol addiction. Now, parents, I don't want this to freak you out. It's very likely that your children will struggle at least with one, if not multiple of these things. I think all of us at one point have struggled with being somewhat down or sad or even depressed. We've all struggled with feeling lonely, and just think back to your own childhood, like that's just a normal part of life. So don't let this scare you, but I do want you to be aware that these are things, especially if they're things that are very common patterns in a child's life, and it's easy for someone on the outside, and even by the outside, I mean, it could be someone that your family knows that's observing your child, will be looking for like, oh, does this child just seem really sad all the time? Like, oh, does this child seem like they're clingy and they're really like desperate for love? Like, again, just be aware that these are some factors and don't allow it to be a source of fear. And just as a reminder of like pouring into our children, just giving them that love, reminding them of who they are, their value and their worth. And I know that's what you guys are already doing, but that gives them a foundation of being strong kids that present themselves in a way that a trafficker, if they ever did come across their path, would be less likely to go, oh, that child is going to be easy to lure in. So those are things to keep in mind. Let's talk about some of the top recruitment tools and tactics used by traffickers. And I want to just stop for a second and say, please feel free to, of course, take notes. You're also welcome to take pictures or screenshots of these slides. I'm sorry, I should have already said that. I forgot. And as we go along, if you do think of a question that you would like to ask right now, just go ahead and write it down so you'll remember to ask it at the end when we do the Q&A. And I'd love to try to answer your questions. So yes, okay, so traffickers, their top recruitment tactics and tools. One of the biggest ones that is very often used is they will pose as a boyfriend or girlfriend, usually older. Like I said, in my personal story, if that guy had been a trafficker and if he had been using that tactic on me, it would have worked. And so thank God he wasn't, but it just shows as someone even at the age of 20 years old, I was vulnerable to believing something like that. Because, you know, all of us want love, right? All of us enjoy being shown attention. So just imagine your teen, even your child, that if someone just starts showing them special attention, they're gonna feel special and they're gonna want more of that. So traffickers are smart and they use that because they want their victims to bond with them. And it's a psychological bond that is very damaging, of course. And there's even reports from another organization called Thorn that states that many times, even after a child exits the life of trafficking, whether they exit it as a child or as an adult, many do not even characterize themselves as victims, and they may continue to romanticize their relationship with the trafficker. And that's because of the psychological bonding and manipulation that the trafficker did on purpose. Oftentimes, this is why you might hear, when you hear stories of survivors, that they were rescued and then they ran back to their trafficker. And a lot of people are like, why? Like, you were rescued, you were set free. Like, you would just think they would be happy and not want that life. Well, no, there is so much psychological trauma that had taken place that oftentimes they can't even realize that they needed to be free from that person, which is very sad. So that's one thing. They'll also use special attention and gifts, and they'll utilize relationship and position. Parents, family members, even school faculty, church faculty, like, I mean, no one is excluded. There's studies that show all of the above have been involved in trafficking. So you have to be very aware of that. They will sometimes promise or provide money or a job to a child or a teen. When I say child, I mean under the age of 18, a minor, just to clarify. And they'll try to fill the child's unmet needs. Sometimes they will also just try to treat the child as if he or she is older, because we all know that children love that. I remember being 10 and wishing I was 13, and then I was 13 and I wished I was 16, and then I was 16 and wished I was 20, and now I'm 27 and I'm like, all right, life can slow down now. And so they will sometimes show subtle, controlling, manipulative behavior. They will use secrecy, blame, and threats to maintain control. And then they will also use social media, online messaging, porn hookup sites, and interactive games as tools to find and to lure in minors. So we're going to dive more into this. I want to share, there's a story of, I don't know this family personally, but I believe it was a family here in Georgia, where a middle school aged girl was on an interactive game. And usually interactive games mean that the players within the game, can talk to or message the other players in the game, even if they don't know them. It could be a player on the other side of the world. Well, so this middle school aged girl was talking to what she thought was a middle school aged boy, and they just seemed to be friends. And he was like, oh, you like dogs? Like, I love dogs too, like finding things in common. Well, her dad felt just prompted by the Holy Spirit to check this game out, and he was a Christian, so he felt like the Lord told him to get her phone and look at it, and he did, and he found these messages, and it didn't take long for him to figure out that this was a predator, and this was not a middle school aged boy, and this predator was already asking for the girl to meet up. So it shows how easy that can happen. And this dad was able to, of course, protect his daughter, and nothing happened, thankfully, because he caught it. But let's dive into some of those ways that the tactics that predators use online. See, in today's world, and I'll talk for just a second, we think of social media. Kids love social media, teens love social media, us adults love social media. A lot of us do, some of us don't. My dad can't stand it and doesn't have social media, and I don't blame him. But I like Instagram, so we all get it, right? But social media today is to kids what Mario Kart was to my age when I was a kid growing up. And, but the most dangerous thing that could happen in Mario Kart is that you fly off a cliff and then somehow magically just, get dropped back out of the sky, and you can just like keep going, right? And you can do that over and over and over again. Well, the most dangerous thing that can happen on social media is that your child can be trafficked or sexually exploited. And it is a very different world than even the world that I grew up in. And so traffickers and predators online will use some tactics, and these are a few of the top ones. Obviously, anyone can go on and create a fake profile with a fake name and fake pictures. And that is one of, just the scary things about social media, because you cannot tell if that person is claiming to be who they're presenting themselves to be. And that is something that is not, there's not a way to find that out, unfortunately. So your child just needs to be aware that someone can be presenting themselves as one way and then not actually be that person. Mom is saying I should tell y'all to minimize the people attending. It's in view of the slides. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me see if I can fix that. That's been blocking those. I apologize. Give me just a second here. Okay. Let me know, Mom, if y'all can still see me. I hope. Not that you really need to, but just let me know if this is a problem. All right, so I'm going to keep going. Create a fake profile. They can present themselves as younger. Usually they'll present themselves around the age of the child that they're talking to, because that child will then think, oh, I want to talk to someone. They're my age. They look fun. They will then start to try to develop a bond with the child by establishing a friendship or a romantic relationship. Might try to get personal information about where the child lives, about their friends, about where they go to school, and so on. And then they will usually attempt to convince the child to send them sexually explicit images or to do like a video chat so they can secretly record the child. And at that point, it gets very dangerous, as you could imagine, because then they can use those images and videos to threaten the child into either one, sending more videos and pictures, into sometimes even just giving them money, or into meeting up to engage with sex with the child. And that is, at that point, it's just very dangerous. And they will often tell the child, like, oh, well, if you don't send me more, like, I am going to post these pictures I have of you on social media for all of your family or for all of your friends to see. And so they'll use threats like that to get them to do more. They might even just say, oh, I'll show you if you'll show me. They might threaten to hurt the child or their family members. They might threaten to commit suicide themselves. Again, remember that this still could be like either, say if it's a young girl, like a 12-year-old girl talking to who she thinks is just like a 15 or 16-year-old boy, and it's a predator. Well, this supposedly what she thinks 15-year-old boy could be saying, well, I'm going to kill myself if you don't send me a picture of you without your shirt on. Like, that's how it could come across. And then they will also sometimes take a more chill approach and just try to develop, like saying, I like you, or you're really sweet, or you're smart, or just giving them compliments, liking their posts, things like that. Or they might just send unprompted sexually explicit images of themselves, and the child could just be intrigued and then send some back. They might offer incentives for explicit content. And so I know all of this sounds very scary. And I first off want to just say, like, I'm not telling you to never let your kids have social media. That's not what this is about. But I am presenting this information to you so you can evaluate what's best for your children. And if social media is a platform you feel like you can navigate with your children and talk to them about the realities of all of these things I'm sharing with you and the dangers of these things. And I really encourage you to be very specific. I tell parents that if you're going to let your child on social media, you basically almost need to share with them almost everything I just shared with you, and be very upfront with them about it. And if you don't feel comfortable with talking to them about the things that I just shared with you, then they might not be old enough to be on social media. Like, if you feel like they're too young to talk to you about these things and to hear this from you, then they're probably, in my opinion, too young to be on social media, because all of these things could actually happen to them if they're on social media. It's more likely it will happen to them if they have no idea of the dangers. Does that make sense? But again, I'm just presenting this information. I also was hoping for tonight that I'd have our app guide ready, and I'm still working on it. So I want to go ahead and kind of give that a push, just stay in on our paying attention to our emails, because hopefully in the next few weeks I'm going to send out a comprehensive app guide. I've been working on researching all the apps and all the ins and outs, and so that is a way that y'all will be able to kind of see more of the nitty-gritty details of some of the dangers on the apps and what we recommend of how to navigate those dangers. All right, so now let's dive into the actual ways to help your kids stay safe online. You kind of have the picture of some of the dangers that they can come across, and these tips are going to pretty much apply across just about any social media application, interactive games, because a lot of them have similar settings, but I will give specific examples for the ones that could be a little bit different. Okay, I think I'm realizing what Mom was advising. If you're seeing the picture of me and in multiple people and it's blocking the screen, you should either be able to move it or minimize it. Okay, I just realized what she was telling me. Thanks, Mom. All right, so first way, how to help them stay safe online. First, recommend you set all accounts to private and only allow people to follow or friend request you that you actually know. So you would be advising your child, if they're on social media, to do this. Just real quickly, most social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, etc., automatically by default the platform is set to public. You have to go into the settings and set it to be a private account. That way only people that you have approved to follow you, that your child has approved, can actually see all of their content and see their pictures. Because if it's a public profile, anyone in the world can see it, anyone in the world can comment, and etc. So for example, I wanted to mention something about Snapchat, because I jumped on Snapchat recently just to research it in preparation of this webinar. And there's a setting under the quick add that says, it says you might appear in another Snapchatter's quick ad if you share mutual friends or another connection. And I did not realize that, and I started getting added by all these really weird sounding like users on Snapchat that I do not know. One's like King something something, and I had to go in and turn off the quick ad for that to stop doing that. So that's just another example of a setting I recommend that you look into. We are losing time quickly, so I am going to start going through these a little faster because I don't want to keep y'all all night. So yes, some of this no-brainer, but you can take pictures of the screen as we go. I would recommend that they also not message people they don't personally know. So don't allow people to follow them that they don't personally know, and don't message people they don't personally know. And usually it's pretty easy to tell if an account is actually someone you know. Like you can look at their tagged photos and all of those things to verify they are who they say they are. But I want to show you an example of someone who is not who he seems to be, or was showing himself to be. So these are all from guys that reached out to me. You'll see in the corner a message that said, "Hello, beautiful." I clicked on his profile. I was like, okay, well, obviously this guy looks attractive, but his bio looks weird. Once I started looking through his pictures, it was obvious all the pictures were posted, like multiple pictures posted on the same day, within the same week. It's just obvious this is a fake account, right? And then over here, you also see this guy that literally is just straight up about DM sugar babies and I'll pay bills and promise to spoil. Like, y'all can tell. Anyways, this is what's out there, parents. If you haven't seen any of these yourself, I've gotten multiple follow requests and messages from accounts that look a lot like this. And if your children, if your young girls, even if your boys are on social media, they're probably getting this too. All right, so let's keep going. I recommend that they don't use location tags or hashtags. You can do this in your stories and in your public, or a post to your wall. And so location tags and hashtags can enable anyone in the world to find your child's account and their profile. So it's best to talk to them about never posting where they're going or where they currently are. A lot of times kids will post on a story, and honestly, we've all maybe done this accidentally if you're on Instagram. I mean, like, oh, look at this cute coffee shop I'm at. Post. You're literally, like, if a trafficker was managing to follow you and see all of your stories, they're gonna be like, oh, she's at that coffee shop, and could easily find you through that. So if I post somewhere that I am, I always wait to post it after I have left. So you want to talk to your kids about that. Be careful of the kind of content that you post. These are things that, in general, you'll see kids these days. I'm sure all of y'all have seen it, where they post the seductive, like the girls with the duck lips, like the pouty lip selfies, or with more skimpy clothing on. Even the guys posting pictures without their shirts on. All of those traffickers are looking through pictures of young people in their networks, trying to find young people that are sending messages just saying, hey, I'm looking for attention, hey, I'm needy, or if some young people are sharing, like, I'm so sad, like, I really had a bad week, or this is just, I hate my life. Like, there's actually, it breaks my heart that young people post stuff like that, but they do. And traffickers are also looking for kids that are sharing that they're very sad and depressed. So teach your children of the kind of content. They want to post wholesome content that presents, that they are confident in themselves, that they're not desperate for attention. And also teach them and talk to them that it is very dangerous to send sexually explicit images and videos. You think and you hope that your children would never send them, but kids send them all the time. Unfortunately, statistics show that. So talk to them about it, because once a picture is sent, it is out there and it can never be erased. And that person, even on Snapchat, kids think, oh, I'll just snap it and it'll go away in 10 seconds. Like, no, it's on some server somewhere, and the person receiving it can screenshot it, and that can ruin a child's life. Because nude images can be posted, and once it's in the internet world, as y'all know, like, it won't go away. So I encourage you to talk to your kids about that specifically. Also, just be aware that there is very explicit and pornographic images and videos that are very easy to stumble upon on all of the social media apps. In case if y'all haven't seen them yourselves, I do want to share this with you really quick. You'll see these couple of, the girl on the right, if it's on the right hand of your screen, where she's in a skimpy bathing suit and in a very crop top. This is on TikTok. I screenshotted this as a video of one of the very popular TikTokers. And most of the videos and the dancing on TikTok, a lot of it's very sexualized, and it's a lot of young people doing, like, some of the dances are kind of cute and fun, but there's some that have very sexual moves to them, and obviously they're very scantily dressed in a lot of the videos. This thing in the middle you see here, this is Instagram. Yes, Pornhub has an account on Instagram, and you could imagine what is on that account. I did not click it, but there's no need to know what is on that account. Over here on the left, you'll see that is Snapchat. You see there's so much. We are raising our children as gender fluid. There's lesbian couple. There's this seductive man and woman here doing something. Like, there's Kim Kardashian in a bikini that I covered up. All of this was on my social media, easy to find. Like, I didn't even have to go looking for it. Like, it's just there. And so if your kids are on social media, this is popping up, and some of this they'll just stumble across. So I encourage you to know that and to talk to your kids about it, to prepare them, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they stumble upon these things, and teaching them to protect their eyes, to close the app, and to come talk to you about it immediately. All right, so how are we doing on time? Wow, this hour is going by very fast. So much to cover. We might just have to do another one. So let's talk about how to keep your kids safe in the day-to-day lives. We're just going to go through this pretty quickly. Some of this is no-brainer again, but safety is in numbers. Teach kids to try to be with others, other children even, and not alone. Walk into a bus stop even has been proven to be dangerous. Teach, especially your young girls, to be cautious when engaging in conversations with guys they don't know. Traffickers have actually recruited young, good-looking fellas to, like, go to public places and to flirt with girls, like say at a mall or a shopping area. The girls that flirt back, they will start to try to lure in, and the girls that don't flirt back, they'll just move on from. So teach your girls to like not flirt back and not to engage with like strange guys that they don't know. Teach your youth and your children about body language, that when you're out in public, like make sure your body language communicates strength and that you're aware of your surroundings. This goes for all of us. I mean, especially women, unfortunately, in today's world. I myself, when I am out shopping, doing anything, and walking in a parking lot, I put my phone up and I make sure that my shoulders are back, I'm walking with confidence, and I'm looking around. Because you know what that's communicating to anyone that might be watching me is that I am aware. And being aware makes me a harder target. And so you want to talk to your kids about that. Teach them to not get into a car with someone they don't know well, even if they appear to know them. Teach them that if a friend tells them they have an easy way to make money, to be cautious, because a trafficker could have gotten to one of their friends and even could be threatening that friend to try to bring in more of their friends, and they would be so scared they wouldn't even know how to tell your child that they were being threatened. Also teach them and talk to them about why you really shouldn't get intoxicated or high at a public place or at a party. I mean, obviously we don't want our kids doing that anyways, but that puts them so much more at risk of being abused and trafficked, and is very dangerous. Talk to them about being cautious of an offer from a stranger to get into acting or modeling. Traffickers actually use this a lot, and they might even use it through social media or somehow manage to get your kid's email or something. Or even just be out in a public place and be like, hey, like we've got this modeling gig, like you're beautiful, you should come check it out. So make sure they just know that that's something traffickers do use, and they need to come talk to you about it so y'all can verify if it's a real agency or not. All right, so for sake of time, I'm actually going to go through this even faster. Y'all just bear with me. I think I ran out of time a little faster than I expected us to, but I do want to talk quickly about how to protect your child from sexual abuse. This content is from an organization called Darkness to Light. Their website is d2l.org, and I really recommend y'all check out their website for more resources on this topic. A big thing is to eliminate or reduce isolated one-on-one situations with children and adults and older children. And this goes along with making sure that interactions can be observed and interrupted, especially if your child is alone with an adult or an older minor. If this, for example, even with like a babysitter, I was reading up on just kind of studying this, and some parents were saying like, hey, sometimes we just don't tell our babysitter exactly when we're coming back, and we just pop inside, and just to make sure. I mean, you hope that nothing is happening, but sometimes it's best that you can sometimes check in when maybe they're not expecting you to check in. Have open conversations with your children about bodies, sex, porn, and boundaries. Start early and talk often. Parents, I can't stress this point enough. In today's world, and I get it, these are sensitive topics that nobody wants to talk about. I don't want to talk about. I don't want to talk about it for an hour, but here we are. I do want to talk about it because it is important, but you know what I mean. It's hard things to talk about. But in today's world, you really need to be talking to your kids, because if you're not talking to them early, that is leaving more room for the world to come in, for their friends to come in, for bad influence to come in and to shape their view of all of these things. And all of that plays into vulnerabilities. And when children have a healthy conversations with their parents about these topics at a young age, it just sets them up for success of feeling like they can talk to their parents about these things, if they have questions, like et cetera, et cetera. So also talk to them about the parts of the body that others shouldn't touch. Obviously, this really applies to younger children at very young ages, I would recommend. Be sure to mention and find a way to teach them that an abuser you know, and the language would be different depending on their age. But it could be an adult friend, a family member, an older youth, and it could be a guy or a girl. Like sometimes people have made this really sad, like kind of stereotype that it's just like male on female abuse, but it could be female on female abuse. It could be male on male abuse. And it's important to explain that to children. Otherwise, they could be really confused when they think it's only one way when it actually could be, you know, multiple different ways. Be proactive. If your child seems uncomfortable or resistant to being with a particular adult, ask why. Understand that children are afraid to tell. There's some different things. I'm just going to put these all here and let y'all just kind of start reading over them and take a picture if you want so we can kind of keep moving. But the abuser will shame the child, will point out that the child let it happen, or that the parents will be angry if they find out. The abuser is often manipulative, might try to tell the child that it's just a game, might threaten, and the child often loves the abuser, like especially if this is a family member or a friend of the family, they're just going to be confused because they don't want to like mess things up. And some children are just too young to understand. The next one, understand how children communicate. And I'll put all these out there. Oh, sorry, let's go back. Children who disclose sexual abuse often tell a trusted adult other than a parent. Just be aware of that, parents. You might find out about it from another adult, and don't let that make you angry. Just be glad that your child told someone. For a child, if they're sexually abused or exploited in any way, like it is very likely that they won't tell anyone. It's going to be huge if they even start to verbalize what happened. Children may tell portions of what happened or pretend it happened to someone else just to gauge your reaction. And children will often shut down and refuse to tell more if you respond emotionally or negatively. So I always tell parents, I'm like, even though I hate to say this, you do want to prepare for the worst. You want to mentally prepare for, like, if your child comes to you telling you of something like this that happened, you want to know how you're going to respond, because how you respond will determine if maybe if they even tell you everything, or if they tell you if it happens again, because God forbid, but it could. So I encourage you to also take a picture of this if y'all are using your phone for pictures, or screenshot it. These are different forms of reporting for the National Human Trafficking Hotline, for the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. If it's an immediate danger, just call 911 right away. Sometimes these other numbers they're really good resources if you have questions, or if you're not sure, you're like, oh, this is happening and I don't know what this means. You can call those numbers for a resource and to ask for their advice. And then if your child is dealing with potential online enticement, report it to law enforcement and to the cybertipline.org. I also want to share this next page. We're coming to an end here, you guys. Thanks for bearing with me. But here's some resources for y'all, and I just want to point out that I recently created an educational resource page on our website if you haven't seen it already. Some of the things I mentioned today, there's PDFs, there's links to other websites that have even more in-depth learning on like specific topics of like sexual abuse and how to talk to younger children. And I mean, it goes on and on. As y'all can see, this is a very complex topic, and I probably shouldn't even try to tackle it all in an hour, but I just wanted to give y'all as much as I could. But please check out that at our website, justone.org/education. Also, here's some counseling references. And at the end of in just a minute here, I'm going to put all of these links in the chat box so y'all can just copy and paste them and have the links directly. But these are some counseling. If your child has been sexually abused, exposed to porn, and that was, like I said, could have been traumatic for them, or experiencing any kind of enticement, I highly recommend counseling for your child, for your family with the child. And these are some resources that I recommend for y'all to look into if you were to need them. Hopefully you don't. Um, but yeah, I do want to, let's see, I think I can escape out of this now and come back to, um, all right, here we are back. Awesome. Okay, so that, I know that was a lot, and that was just kind of like the fire hydrant just pouring out. But I hope it was helpful. I hope y'all did take some notes, and you guys have really taken the first step of joining this fight with us, because education is not some small matter. I know your brain is probably hurting, but it is, you took the first step to equip yourself to, whether it's protecting your children, or again, to equip yourself with this knowledge so you can share it with people in your life that do have children in their lives. And these are all things that we just need eyes on everything, like, because trafficking is happening all around us, child sexual abuse is happening all around us. And so now all of y'all are more equipped to recognize if something could be happening, and to know more of what to do if it is. And I just want to share a few more ways of how y'all can partner with us at Just One in this fight, because we need each of you. Like I said, there's over 10 million children being exploited around the world. So we need it all hands on deck for this fight. And one of the ways is you can volunteer. Our website, we've got some information about volunteering on our website. You can also shop from our online store. We've got some fun merch, shirts, hats, sweatshirts. I'm working on some new designs that hopefully we're going to be releasing here soon, so you can also be looking out for those. And you can join us by partnering with us in this fight financially. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's only by the support of our generous donors that we get to do what we do, that enables all the research that takes place and the preparations for this kind of presentation, and when I do go out and give these presentations. So when you partner with us, you will enable us to continue to spread this education even further. We want to create more videos that can go online that'll be bite-sized portions of like what you heard tonight, in a way that parents and youth, videos specifically targeted to youth, that they can learn and know how to protect themselves. It'll enable us to educate more children, educate more adults. It'll also enable us to continue caring for our rescued girls in Kenya, and to rescue more girls in the future, because there are more that need to be rescued. So if you would consider partnering with us financially, we'd be so grateful, or becoming a monthly donor. I don't know how many's on this call, but y'all, you would be amazed at what $20 a month, how far that can go if everyone on this call started doing $20 a month. Like, it would be probably 400 plus a month additional coming in to support and to be in this fight for kids around the world with us. And you can donate on our website, justone.org. I'm going to share that link as well. Actually, I'm going to pop all of the links that I have mentioned into the chat really quick. One of the links, the first one, is the video. In case if y'all did I mention this? I can't remember. We've released it. We have a 6-minute video. I don't think I did, but I encourage that y'all would go and watch if you haven't seen it already. And you should see this message with the links pop up in your chat. The video just kind of depicts a young girl and what happened when she was being lured online, and how she almost fell into trafficking, but a friend was able to warn her. And it's something, especially maybe with your middle school and high school age kids, if you have those ages, you can watch with them, kind of as a conversation opener for all these things that we talked about, and that I encourage you to talk with them about as well. The other ones are online resource for education. There's our donate link, and then the counseling links as well. So we are close to time, and I want to honor everyone's time. I want to thank y'all for being here. We are going to do a Q&A, and I'm happy to stay on a few extra minutes since I'm running a little over. But if anyone does, if you need to pop off now and you don't have any additional questions, you're welcome to go ahead and leave. But I just thank y'all for your time. Thank you for joining me tonight, for learning, for caring, for wanting to equip yourself, and to invest an hour. When you're ready to just probably go to bed. You took an hour out of your time. So if you have any questions also later, you can reach out to us on our contact page on our website. This is the last thing before I take questions. I will be emailing out again the app guide in the next couple weeks, so look for that. Check your spam or junk folders if you're not getting our emails and you're subscribed, because I've noticed sometimes even the emails we send out are going to my junk folder and I'm literally the one sending the emails. So sometimes they go there, so check that. And then also be on the lookout for a feedback survey. I would love to get y'all's feedback on this. If it was too much information, not enough, like what you learned, what you would have liked to have learned, I will send that out in the next couple of days. But yeah, again, thank you all for joining. Feel free to leave if you don't have any questions. I hope you have a great rest of your week.